Emily Carter was 29, smart, quiet in the way that made people underestimate her, and observant in the way that made her dangerous. She had been with Tyler for 5 years. They lived in a modest but stylish apartment in Charlotte, North Carolina. From the outside, they looked like any modern couple trying to figure life out. But from the inside, things had been unraveling. It started small. Tyler began tracking every receipt she brought home. Then came the passive-aggressive comments about how much she spent on skincare or groceries. When they first moved in together, money wasn't even a thing they argued about. They split stuff loosely, supported each other when needed, and never kept score. But somewhere between Tyler getting a promotion at his tech job and starting to read finance Twitter, he changed. So when he sat her down one Sunday afternoon, legs crossed like he was about to deliver a TED Talk, and said, "This month onward, we'll have separate budgets," she didn't flinch. She just looked at him and said, "All right." Tyler blinked, probably expecting a fight or tears. But Emily had already done all her crying 6 months ago when she found out about the Tinder profile he swore he deleted. Back then, she gave him another chance. This time she wasn't even mad, just ready. "Cool," Tyler said, trying to hide his surprise. "It'll be cleaner this way. Less confusion about who's paying for what." "Totally," she replied, sipping her coffee. "Makes sense." He smiled, relieved. He thought he had the upper hand. He always did. But what Tyler didn't know was that Emily had already started making her exit plan. She'd opened her own bank account 3 months ago, quietly applied for a remote job. Got it. Never told him. She'd been stacking paychecks while still pretending she worked part-time at the boutique down the street. She even made a fake work calendar in case he peeked. Tyler wasn't abusive, not physically, but emotionally, he chipped away at her piece by piece. She'd come home tired and he'd say stuff like, "Must be nice working a 4-hour shift," or, "You're lucky I cover the real bills." And every time he said those things, something inside her hardened. That night, after the separate budgets announcement, Tyler went out with his friends. He left his phone on the charger like he always did when he thought he had nothing to hide. Emily waited 20 minutes. Then she picked up his phone. The passcode hadn't changed. Typical. She scrolled. Nothing much in the texts. Instagram DMs were dry, but it was the email that gave him away. A forwarded receipt from a jewelry store. A pendant necklace. Not her style. Not even close. She stared at the screen. The date? Last week. She exhaled, steady and calm. "All right," she whispered to herself again. "Let's play." By the time Tyler came home drunk and loud around midnight, Emily was already asleep, or pretending to be. He slid into bed, reeking of whiskey and cheap cologne. She turned slightly, enough to make it seem like she was used to this. And in a way, she was. But not for much longer. The next morning, Emily made pancakes. Blueberry, Tyler's favorite. She even added whipped cream, just the way he liked it when they first started dating. He came into the kitchen, still groggy, rubbing his eyes, and paused at the sight of breakfast on the table. "Wow," he said, smiling. "What's the occasion?" "Just felt like it." Emily shrugged, sliding a plate toward him. "We've got our new budgeting plan kicking off. Might as well start it sweet." He grinned, clueless. "See? This is going to be good for us. Financial independence, right?" "Right," she echoed, nodding. While he ate, she asked casual questions. "So, what do you want to do about rent? Should we split it 50-50, or do you want to calculate by income?" Tyler paused, fork halfway to his mouth. "Well, considering I make more, maybe you can just handle utilities and groceries? I'll cover rent. Fair?" "Fair," she said, smiling. But she knew exactly what he was doing. He wanted to keep the power dynamic tilted. Cover rent so he could say, "I pay for the roof over our heads," while she ran around budgeting for dish soap and toilet paper. Fine. She'd let him have it. That afternoon, Emily walked to the nearby storage facility and signed a short-term unit. She started boxing up small things. Clothes she didn't wear often, sentimental stuff, books. Nothing noticeable yet. Every few days, she'd sneak a box into the trunk of her car and quietly move them out. Tyler never noticed. At home, he was busy trying to learn day trading. He kept bragging about how he was playing the market now, like he was some kind of Wall Street shark. Emily nodded along, asked questions that made him feel smart, even watched a couple videos with him. "You should totally invest too," he told her one night. "Put in, like, 500 and see where it goes." "Maybe," she said, biting her lip. "But I kinda wanna save for something bigger." "Like what?" She smiled. "You'll see." That same night, Tyler took a phone call in the bathroom. He thought the water running would cover the sound. It didn't. Emily sat quietly by the door, barely breathing. She only caught a few words. "Yeah, she doesn't suspect anything." "No, not yet. I told her we're budgeting now. She actually bought it." Emily didn't need to hear more. She went back to bed and pretended to be asleep. Tyler came in 10 minutes later and climbed in beside her. She felt him try to wrap his arm around her waist. She shifted slightly, enough to make him stop. The next day, she started phase 2. She bought a new phone, a cheap one, prepaid. She used it to set up a second Venmo account, a second Gmail, and reconnected with someone she hadn't talked to in 2 years. Her old college roommate, Natalie. Back in school, Natalie was wild, but she was also loyal, the kind of woman who'd help you hide a body and ask if you wanted coffee after. They hadn't talked since Tyler slowly isolated Emily from most of her friends, but when she messaged Natalie, the response came back in seconds. "Girl, where the hell have you been? You good?" Emily texted back, "Not yet, but I'm getting there." A few days later, she met Natalie for coffee and told her everything. Natalie just sat there, jaw clenched, coffee untouched. "You want to disappear?" she finally asked. Emily nodded. "Then we do it right." They came up with a plan. Emily would wait for the perfect moment. Somewhere between a major move Tyler was planning, a promotion to a new office, new city, and the lease renewal. Let him get comfortable. Let him think everything was going his way. And then, gone. No fight, no confrontation, no drama, just silence. Tyler, meanwhile, kept texting someone named Jay. Emily didn't need to snoop further to know it wasn't just a friend. The necklace proved that. And every time he lied, she smiled. Because he thought she was blind. Because he thought she'd never leave. Because he thought he'd already won. He had no idea she had already rented a condo across town under Natalie's name. No idea she'd already drained half the joint savings account months ago into a crypto wallet he didn't know existed. No idea she had planted the idea in his head that separate budgets were his idea. And certainly no idea what she was planning to do with his laptop. She had cloned his hard drive, copied all the files, the messages, the accounts, the browser history. He thought he was clever. She had proof he wasn't, and she was just getting started. The next few days went by like they were nothing special. Tyler was still consumed with his stock trades, trying to convince Emily to get on board. She pretended to show interest, even let him explain his latest theory about short selling and whatnot. He was so wrapped up in his own world that he didn't notice how much more space Emily was taking for herself, both literally and figuratively. Emily's new phone became her lifeline. She texted Natalie daily, updating her on the plan, checking in to make sure everything was falling into place. But one night, as she sat down for dinner, something she'd started doing alone more often, Tyler dropped a bombshell. "So," he said, halfway through his burger, not looking at her, "I think I want to move. I've been offered a position in Miami. It's a big promotion, and the company's even offering a relocation bonus. I think I'm gonna take it." Emily put her fork down slowly, her heart not even skipping a beat. This was the moment she'd been waiting for, but her face betrayed nothing. No surprise, no shock, no joy, just a quiet, almost calculating calm. "Miami," she repeated, her voice flat. "That's huge." "Yeah, I know," he said, his eyes lighting up. "It's going to be a game changer for both of us. A new start." She didn't respond immediately, just took a long sip of her wine and stared at him. He was practically glowing, thinking he'd just made the biggest decision of their lives. But Emily saw through it. He didn't care about Miami. He didn't care about them. This was just another opportunity for him to escape from the relationship, to let her manage the mundane while he played at success. "I'll support you," she said finally, "if that's what you really want." He smiled, relieved. "Thanks, Em. I knew you'd get it." But the truth was, she'd been ready for this moment long before he ever mentioned Miami. She'd anticipated this exact conversation, knowing that as soon as Tyler felt the pressure of their financial situation, he'd find a way to bail out. And what better way than to move to a place where he could start over, away from her, from the life they built together. What he didn't know was that Emily already had everything mapped out. She had already hired a lawyer. She already had a moving company on standby. She had even started forwarding her important documents to a different address. She was leaving, but he wouldn't get a single clue until it was far too late. Over the next few days, Tyler grew more and more excited about the idea of Miami. He started making plans, booking flights, and researching apartments. Emily remained quiet, detached, as though the whole thing didn't affect her at all. If he noticed her lack of enthusiasm, he didn't mention it. One night, about a week after his big announcement, Tyler had a work dinner. Emily, alone in their apartment, received an unexpected call from her lawyer. "Emily, I've got everything ready. I've filed the paperwork for your new place, the lease is in your name, and I've already drafted the separation agreement. If you're ready to go, we can finalize everything by the end of the week." She leaned back against the couch, her thumb running across the edge of her wine glass. "Let's do it. I'm ready." "Just to confirm," the lawyer continued, "we've already set up the distribution for the assets, including your shared account. He's not going to have any access to the funds once we move forward." Emily smiled. Perfect. When Tyler came home late that night, Emily was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. His energy was palpable, excited even. He threw his briefcase onto the table and plopped down beside her, eager to tell her all about the dinner. "Babe, I've got great news," he said, his voice higher than usual. "They want me to come to Miami by next month. We're good to go." Emily hummed, her eyes never leaving the phone screen. "I'm going to call the movers tomorrow. They said they can have everything packed up in just a few days. Can you believe it?" "Sounds great," she said, offering him a soft smile. There it was again, the slight unease in his tone, the feeling that something wasn't quite right, but he couldn't pinpoint it. He stood up, pacing back and forth, still buzzing with excitement. "You know, this is the start of something huge for us. I'm so glad we're doing this together." Emily looked up at him, her expression cool, detached. "Yeah, together." She wasn't lying. It was the start of something huge, for her. The question was whether Tyler was ready for the life he'd chosen. She stood, excused herself, and walked into the bedroom. He followed a moment later, his voice still upbeat, but she could hear the faintest trace of uncertainty in his steps. I was thinking we could..." But she didn't let him finish. She was already packing a bag. For a second, Tyler froze, watching her. "What are you doing?" Emily glanced over her shoulder, a calm smile tugging at her lips. "Packing my things." He blinked, caught off guard. "What? Why?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she zipped up the bag, placed it by the door, and turned to face him. "Tyler, I think I've known for a while now, and so have you." His face went pale, and suddenly, the room felt colder. He opened his mouth to say something, but words failed him. His gaze flickered to the bag by the door, then back to her. "I'm leaving, Tyler." His eyes widened. "What? You can't be serious. After everything, I was serious the moment you decided to move to Miami. I'm serious now." The last string of hope he had unraveled right there, unraveling everything he thought he'd controlled for so long. Wait, we can still work this out," he pleaded. But she didn't wait. She didn't need to. Tyler stood frozen in the doorway, watching as Emily grabbed the last of her things. His mind was spinning, his chest tightening. He had never imagined this would happen. Everything was supposed to go his way. He was the one with the plan. But she was a step ahead. You can't just walk out on me like this," he said, his voice shaking. "I thought we were in this together." She didn't look back as she slipped her shoes on, calmly tying the laces as though this was just another routine. "We were, Tyler, but somewhere along the way, you stopped seeing me as your partner. You started seeing me as your financial support, your plan B." He scoffed, still not getting it. "What are you talking about? You know this promotion was important. This move, it's what we needed." Emily closed the door to their closet, a subtle, final gesture. "We didn't need this. You needed this. You wanted a fresh start without telling me, and that's fine. But I'm done being dragged along for the ride while you make every decision for both of us." Tyler's face flushed, anger bubbling up now. "You think this is about me? This is about us, Em. We're supposed to be in this together." She turned to face him now, and for the first time in a while, he saw the determination in her eyes. "Tyler, I was in this, but I wasn't in a relationship anymore. I was just keeping the lights on while you did whatever you wanted." He stepped closer, his hand raised as if to touch her shoulder, to stop her from walking away. "You're making a huge mistake." But Emily shook her head. "No, I'm not. You just don't know the whole story." That's when he saw it, the cold, calculated look in her eyes. A look he hadn't seen before. A look that made him realize that this wasn't just about a move to Miami or the promotion. This was about something much bigger. Before Tyler could say anything, Emily walked past him, grabbing her bag, and headed for the door. "Em, please," he pleaded, desperation seeping into his voice. "Where are you going?" She didn't answer immediately, taking a moment to open the door and step out into the hallway. As she turned to face him one last time, she said the words that would haunt him forever. "I'm leaving, Tyler, but I want you to know something first. This wasn't just your decision. I've known what you've been up to. I've been watching you, and now it's time to watch you lose everything." His heart skipped a beat. "What the hell are you talking about?" But Emily was already walking out the door. "You'll find out soon enough." Tyler stood there, paralyzed. He couldn't wrap his mind around what had just happened. Emily, his Emily, had just walked out of his life, and now, for the first time, he wasn't the one in control. He scrambled for his phone, dialing her number over and over. No answer. He tried again. Still nothing. His frustration reached a boiling point. He stormed into their bedroom, grabbing his laptop off the desk and opening it to check his emails. That's when his breath hitched. In his inbox, there was an email from his bank. Subject: Account change notification. He clicked it. His heart dropped. There it was, in black and white. Transfer completed. An amount he knew very well. The joint savings account they'd both contributed to. That account. He scanned through the details, a sick feeling creeping over him. The entire balance had been drained. Gone. And there was no way in hell Emily could have done this without him noticing. But there was something else. A transfer had also been made to a new account. His phone buzzed, and a notification popped up. It was from her, Emily. "Tyler, I hope you enjoy your new life in Miami, but it's funny how things change when you can't even trust the person you're with. Oh, and by the way, you should check your crypto wallet." Tyler's stomach churned. The very crypto wallet he'd kept an eye on for months. The one he swore he had control over. He rushed to open it, hands shaking. It was empty. The entire wallet. Gone. Emily was already in the Uber on her way to the airport. She had left Tyler behind with nothing but confusion and a growing sense of panic. But as she checked her phone for the final time that night, one message caught her eye. It was from Natalie. "Em, I think it's time. I'll be waiting for you. Let's get this done." Her heart skipped a beat. It was time. The final piece of the plan was in motion. She was no longer the woman who was willing to put up with his manipulations. She was the one pulling the strings now. Tyler had thought he was pulling the fast one, but Emily had always been the one with the real power. The flight was long, but it didn't matter. Emily felt free. Free from the lies, free from the control, and free from everything Tyler had ever tried to trap her in. By the time she landed in another state, she was a different woman. No more pretending, no more games. Her new life was waiting. She was ready for it. And as she checked into her new apartment, one she had already signed the lease for under a completely different name, she could feel the weight of her old life falling away, piece by piece. She didn't need Tyler anymore. She didn't need anyone to tell her who she was or what she should want. Back in the apartment Tyler had once thought was his, the door to their old life closed with a soft click, and Tyler? Well, the world as he knew it was crumbling, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Tyler spent the next few days in a daze. He could barely focus at work. Every time he checked his phone, it felt like a reminder of the disaster that was his life. Emily was gone, and with her went everything he had worked for, everything he thought he had under control. His bank account was drained, his investments wiped out, His phone notifications pinged with calls from the bank and his lawyer. It was like everything he had built up over the years was crumbling before his eyes. He found himself in a meeting with his manager, but his mind was elsewhere. His phone buzzed in his pocket again, and for the third time that morning, he silenced it without checking. He was exhausted, physically and mentally. The weight of his decisions was becoming too much to bear. But it wasn't just the money. It was the betrayal. He thought of what Emily had said before she left. "I've been watching you." Those words echoed in his mind. His phone buzzed again, but this time it was different. He glanced down at the screen, and his heart skipped a beat. "Emily, I'm sorry, but I had to do it. You don't understand yet, but you will soon. I hope you're ready for what's coming next. The real story hasn't even begun." Tyler froze. His hands were trembling as he typed a response. "What are you talking about?" He pressed send, but he didn't expect a response. He never did. But then, to his surprise, the phone buzzed again. "Emily, check your business partner's inbox. You'll find everything there." The message didn't make sense. What could she possibly be talking about? His business partner, James, wasn't involved in any of this. Was he? Tyler's stomach dropped as the realization hit him like a freight train. What if Emily wasn't just taking money from him? What if she had set something bigger in motion? He couldn't sit around and wonder any longer. He had to know. The next few hours were a blur. Tyler made his way to James's office, trying to remain calm. The knot in his stomach grew tighter with every step he took. By the time he reached the door, he felt like his world was about to shatter. "Hey, James," Tyler said as he pushed the door open, trying to act casual. But James was sitting at his desk, staring at the screen. The tension in the air was palpable. James looked up, his face pale. "Tyler, you need to see this." James turned his laptop towards him, and Tyler's eyes widened. There, in the inbox, were dozens of emails from Emily. But they weren't just casual conversations. They were meticulously planned, detailing every single move Tyler had made in the last few months. The emails were filled with information about his business dealings, his financial investments, his personal life, even his communications with clients. Every email was carefully laid out, with timestamps, evidence, and hidden details Tyler had never noticed before. He felt the floor drop from beneath him. Emily had been tracking everything. "What is this?" Tyler's voice cracked as he stared at the screen. James's voice was low. "She's been playing you, man, all of us." Tyler didn't want to believe it. This couldn't be real. But as the realization set in, the pieces began to fall into place. Emily hadn't just been watching. She had been planning, orchestrating a massive scheme. She had used Tyler, used his trust, to set up a trap that would destroy him, financially and emotionally. And James? He wasn't just an innocent bystander. He was complicit in her plan. Tyler's mind raced. How much of this was real? How much of it had been a lie? He was losing control. Everything he thought he had, everything he worked so hard for, was slipping through his fingers like sand. His phone buzzed again, and for a moment, he hesitated. He didn't want to check it, but he did anyway. "Emily, I hope this serves as a wake-up call for you, Tyler. You thought you could control everything, but you can't. And now you'll see what happens when you try to deceive people who know the truth." Tyler's heart pounded. Deceive people who know the truth? What was she talking about? Was she threatening him? He turned to James, his voice shaking. "What does she mean? What's going on?" James looked uneasy, glancing at the screen, then back at Tyler. "I don't know, but I think Emily has more control than you realize, and I'm afraid it's too late to stop it." Tyler's mind spun. Too late? What did that even mean? He had to find out. He had to put the pieces together. Emily was miles away, but she wasn't looking back. As her flight touched down in another city, she felt a wave of satisfaction. Tyler was spiraling. Everything was falling apart, just as she had planned. But she knew it wasn't over yet. There was still one final move to make. She checked her phone again. A message from Natalie. "Natalie, the files are in place. We're good to go." Emily smiled to herself. It was time. Back at Tyler's office, the tension was unbearable. James had left, and Tyler sat there alone, staring at the screen. His entire life felt like it was in pieces. He opened one of the emails again, scanning the details, and that's when it hit him. the last piece of the puzzle. Emily hadn't just been tracking him, she had been building an empire, piece by piece, using him as her pawn. Tyler's phone buzzed again, and he hesitated before opening the message. Emily, you'll be hearing from my lawyer soon. It's over, Tyler. The final blow. It was over. Tyler was broken. He had lost everything. His money, his business, his trust, and most importantly, the one person he thought he could control. And Emily? She was just getting started. Tyler sat in his office, feeling like the walls were closing in around him. His phone buzzed one more time, the screen lighting up with a message from Emily. He stared at it for a long moment, knowing that whatever it said, it would be the last nail in the coffin. Emily, you've made a lot of mistakes, Tyler, and now you'll pay the price. Truth always comes out. His breath caught in his throat. What truth? What had she meant by that? Tyler had no idea what was still coming, but the dread in his gut told him it was going to be bad, worse than he could imagine. He jumped out of his seat and stormed out of his office, heading straight for the nearest coffee shop. He needed space. He needed a moment to breathe. But as soon as he stepped into the cafe, he saw someone sitting by the window. It was Natalie. Natalie wasn't just any acquaintance. She was someone who had been working closely with Emily. She had been there through the entire scheme, a quiet player in the background who had pulled the strings just as much as Emily had. Tyler felt a lump form in his throat. He took a deep breath and walked over to her table. "You," he said, his voice steady but full of anger. "What's going on, Natalie? What's Emily really up to?" She looked up at him, her eyes cold. "You should have seen this coming, Tyler. You were never going to be the hero of this story. You were just another pawn in a much bigger game. And you still don't understand, do you?" Tyler's frustration boiled over. "Tell me what's going on, Natalie. I deserve to know. After everything, I deserve to understand." Natalie let out a breath, like she was holding in a secret she had wanted to share for so long. "Emily has been playing a long game, Tyler. A game that you were never supposed to win. She's not just after money, she's after power, and she's been setting you up to fail from the very beginning." Tyler's mind raced as he tried to piece it together. But the emails, all the lies, she manipulated everything. Natalie nodded. "Exactly. She knew you'd fall for it. She knew you'd try to control her, and you did. But the real question is, why do you think she let you? Why do you think she let you dig your own grave?" Tyler's stomach churned. He'd been played, not only by Emily but by everyone who had been involved. His hands gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles turning white. "So what now?" he asked, his voice shaking. "What happens next?" Natalie leaned in closer, her expression unreadable. "The truth is, Tyler, Emily is already 10 steps ahead of you. She's got everything she needs to bring you down, and the last piece of the puzzle is coming. Soon, you'll find out what she's really been after all along." Tyler felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He had no idea what to expect, but he knew one thing for sure. His life, everything he had worked for, had already changed forever. Weeks passed. Tyler tried to pick up the pieces of his shattered life, but it felt impossible. Every time he turned a corner, Emily was there, lurking in the background, a shadow hanging over him. Her presence was everywhere, from the court papers to the whispers in the office. She had become an unstoppable force, and Tyler was just trying to stay afloat. Then, one day, out of nowhere, he received a call from his lawyer. It was the call he had been dreading. "Tyler," his lawyer said, "we have a problem." "What now?" Tyler asked, dread seeping into his voice. "Emily's filed a lawsuit, but it's not just about the money. She's accusing you of financial misconduct, and based on the evidence she's provided, it looks like you're in serious trouble." Tyler's head spun. He had no idea what Emily had on him, but whatever it wasn't just a simple revenge scheme. She was out for blood. "Financial misconduct?" Tyler repeated, barely able to comprehend what his lawyer was saying. "What do you mean?" The lawyer explained that Emily had somehow gained access to confidential company documents. She had found irregularities, details Tyler had never even noticed. And now everything was unraveling. Tyler wasn't just losing his business. He was losing his reputation, his credibility, and his future. He didn't have time to process the news before another call came through. This time it was a reporter. "Tyler," the reporter said, "we've received a tip that you're involved in some serious financial wrongdoing. How do you respond to the accusations?" Tyler's world seemed to crash down on him. Everything he had worked for, everything he had built, was being torn apart in a matter of hours. He tried to gather his thoughts, but his head was spinning. He was sinking. But then, something inside him clicked. He wasn't going to go down without a fight. "Listen," Tyler said, his voice now cold and determined. "You've got it all wrong. Emily has been playing you all. She's the one who's been setting this up from the very beginning. If you want to know the truth, you'll need to dig deeper." The truth, however, was more complicated than anyone could have imagined. As Tyler dug into the evidence, he uncovered a hidden layer of Emily's plan. What he had thought was a personal betrayal was, in fact, a carefully orchestrated campaign to destroy everything he had. But in the end, it was more than that. Emily wasn't just after Tyler. She had set her sights on something much bigger, something that would change the course of both their lives forever. Tyler wasn't sure he could win this battle, but one thing was for certain. This fight was far from over. And Emily? She had no idea what she had just unleashed. As Tyler sat in the dimly lit room, surrounded by the remnants of his former life, he realized one truth that burned deep into his soul. No one ever really sees the full picture until it's too late. The game Emily had played was just the beginning of something much darker. And as much as he had thought he could control the situation, he had underestimated the power of secrets and revenge. What happened next? Only time would tell if Tyler could fight his way out of the mess Emily had created, or if he was doomed to watch it all crumble. But one thing was certain. The game wasn't over. If you enjoyed this intense, twist-filled journey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join us for more incredible stories. Stay tuned for the next chapter, because you never know what's coming next.